Oh no, Barrett's gonna lose his mind.
No. He can't find out. When he listens to this podcast, we just have to deny everything.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello.
And Danae Hughes.
Donut!
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. Of course, Danae's eating, because I think at this point it's some sort of just like, what was the guy with the bell and the dogs?
Pavlov?
Yeah, it's just some sort of Pavlovian response now that when I say it's time to start the show, you eat and drink.
What are you drinking?
Tea.
Oh, that's tea? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got home with my tea in my Brahms cup, and I dropped it on the floor. So a massive portion of it popped out of one side, and then when I picked it up, the styrofoam had busted on the other side. So I had to run into the kitchen and pour what was left into a cup and then clean up a big mess. It was an exciting start to my day.
I mean, we are a minute in, and we've already hit Brahms, tea, Danae eating, and a mess, and somebody's already got bingo. I'm just saying, this is quicker than ever.
Quick, somebody say cuss word. Quick. It's on there somewhere.
Yeah. We just had a wonderful time recording our Boney Pod, our monthly Boney Pod for our members of our Sin Club at Patreon. And I wanted to mention that and bring that up because if you've never thought of being a Sin Club member, I'd highly encourage you to at least check it out because we have so much fun there. And we talked about...
Are we calling it Sin Club?
What's that?
You're calling it Sin Club.
Yeah, that's kind of where we landed, right?
Is that what it's called?
Sure, why not?
Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt. I just did not realize it was called Sin Club, and I got excited because, I love being parts of clubs.
Yeah.
That might have been a conversation you muted.
That's true. That's true. It probably was. It probably was a conversation in
I
Slack.
was trying to go with members of Jeremy, which we probably want to cut that out because I think he's really opposed to that. So I don't want people to start calling him that. But
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we just got through recording a members-only podcast where we talked about movies or TV shows that we're afraid to revisit based on a suggestion by one of our Sin Club members, and also about, of course, beauty standards and gender norms because we can't help ourselves. But if you are a Sin Club member at Patreon, you can hear that every month we do a little bonus topic for all our amazing members. And there's all sorts of other fun stuff there as well. Early access to all the videos, lots of great stuff. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/cinemasins, or you can go to cinemasins.com and there's a link there for the Patreon as well. So we appreciate our members and we'd love for you to be one. So we wanted to let you know about that. Ready to get into the SinSide Scoop?
Let's do it!
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the show or movie in general, or music video, I guess, as well. Let's start with TV Sins as we do, and we are going on another Avatar run. We start with Avatar: The Blue Spirit. This was a Hughes Watkins joint. Jonathan and Danae writing on this. How excited are we to be sending more Avatar episodes?
I'm really enjoying
confused.
it. Jonathan? Yeah.
No, I'm really enjoying it. No, I was actually going to watch the show. I was like, I'm just going to watch the series, and then, because that'll make more sense. But then I realized after watching the first 3 episodes, I was confused. So I didn't think it really mattered if I just jumped right into that one. So that's what I did. And I also thought from a narrator, the narrator's not supposed to know a lot about the show. So I thought maybe that would actually help. And I think my confusion showed in my things I send.
Yes.
But,
I loved it. I thought
I still don't understand how the Fire Nation can't be, how they get destroyed by, how they don't get destroyed, which maybe they do eventually since they're the bad guys, right? They're the bad guys, right?
Well, the leader
the
of
bad
the Fire
guys.
Nation and his psychopath daughter are the bad guys, but
yeah.
So Danny Zuko becomes a good guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Does he
his
become
story
a
arc
T-bird?
He's
is
a
like one of
redemption.
redemption.
Tell me
Yeah.
more. Tell me more.
Well, this is an epic episode. The Blue Spirit is because in this one, Aang, our hero, is captured and rescued by his nemesis, but it's not revealed in that episode that it is Zuko until Aang rescues him and the mask falls off. You know, they had this whole great escape thing, because this is, I think, the first time that Aang gets captured. Like, oh no, our hero has been captured, and it's pretty clear he's not going to be able to get out. And this blue spirit shows up. So it was just really interesting mystery.
Is he the hero at this point, though? Because he seems a little confused. Like,
Aang?
he just seems like he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, he's just a kid, you know,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons that Kids is a great kids show. You can kind of relate to.
Yeah.
He wants to play, he wants to have fun, but at the same time, he has the ability to manipulate all of this power and all this energy, and nobody else can do it. So if there's somebody who can restore the balance, it's going to be the Avatar, who happens to just be this child.
Yeah.
So, but this is a fun episode in that, you know, it's kind of taking Aang on a solo adventure. It's got, you know, Zuko saving him, and then you've got the other two, you know, brother and sister, who are just kind of sick and just sort of out of the way on the side during this episode.
Yeah,
So
they did the sitcom thing where they made them sick, so they wouldn't have to have them in the main story.
what is it called when an episode does that? I researched it before. Bottle cap?
A bottle episode. It's just called a bottle
episode.
Yeah.
It's like the Avatar version of the bottle episode in a weird way, where it's like, okay, we're just going to focus on two people.
Well, the next one we
Momo.
do. Well, I mean, no, two. I'm sorry, we work ahead. The 2 episodes after this is a legit bottle episode that we do for this show. So there's a little tease for you. You can try to figure out what episodes we're gonna do.
I learned whenever we were doing this one too. They purposefully wrote this episode to have that end, like that finale style feel to it, because they had to do something that would create curiosity and intrigue and mystery. And so this was a very purposeful moment to try to genuinely capture the attention of not just the audience, but the people who are purchasing the show or who were allowing the show to continue to be aired. They had to show that there was an ability to play around with the premise a little bit and give something complete unexpected.
But this wasn't the finale, was it? The season
No,
finale?
it wasn't. But they wanted to give it that feel,
gotcha.
so that the people who were deciding whether or not they would continue to even air Avatar or back Avatar, they had to kind of put a big punch in there. And this was the punch episode, which I thought was a really interesting thing to kind of discover.
Well, I'm super glad that we are continuing to do this. It's obviously very popular right now with being on Netflix. A lot more people are seeing it. There's a lot of social media activity on it. The new show is once this pandemic has passed a little more, will be in production, and so I'm pumped about that.
Oh, they're doing a new show?
They're doing a live action TV show based on the cartoon. Like, I think it's going to be the same events as the cartoon, just in live action, which I'm so excited because, again, that will flush the movie that shall not be named from our memories even more.
Oh, looks like M. Night's behind the show.
No, he is not. He most certainly is not. The original creators are behind the show, which gives me very much hope. So yeah, I'm excited. Avatar is kind of back in the spotlight because it's such a great property, and I'm super excited to see what happens with it. Let's talk about the video itself. And since I didn't write on it, I will kick us off. Some of the sins I really enjoyed. This live action remake of Mulan cracked me up. I thought that was really hilarious. I am digging, as a new narrator, alliteration sins. I love trying to read them fast, doing them. So the conveniently calculated communication carried by Claw is critically convenient was really fun for me. Enjoyed that. Now you know what my brain does when someone attempts to explain Avatar to me. It was very funny. And guess it's a good thing those super efficient archers are suddenly replaced by a small army of lame javelin throwers.
I had that written on.
Such a great observation. Such a great observation. What about you guys? What were some of the ones you wanted to chat about?
I was excited. I got you to tell the "How do you eat a frog" joke. That was basically. I just wanted to hear Aaron tell that joke. No, I don't know why that joke came to me, but it's just I remember somebody telling me that to me when I was like a kid, and I didn't get it. And then,
of course,
10 years later, it popped up in my head, and I was like, oh, now I get it. Then the we made fun of the Fire Nation, and then got to hear Aaron recite some of Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation. That was a lot of fun. And then where did all that Momo loot wind up? I was curious about that as well, so I was glad Danae brought that up.
Yeah. I think I read too that in other episodes later on, some of that loot reappears as if he took it with him. And that is something this show does really well. There's some stuff that they're bringing into the story so early that pays out so much later in the series. It's just really fun. They really think this kind of stuff through. I'll take an opportunity to throw out a comment for Unicorn Sprinkles, who says, comments ask them to do Avatar. They do them. So you have chosen death. It's like just pointing out that we have been asked to send this, and now it's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Like, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for.
I think we're having a good time with it. I loved the sins. I thought that Jonathan pointed out some really fun stuff, like the Rhythm Nation I had written down. I did like the dark on black on gray on shadow, because I think I want to use that again.
Well, it's become
really
a running
dark
thing. Yeah, because there was a the Sopranos video had one of those where it was like I forget, was it black on black on black on black, or
it was something
that
like
was beige on beige on beige.
Oh, beige on beige. Yeah, it was beige on beige. Yeah, definitely. So it's already a running thing.
Beige on beige.
Beige on beige. Beige on beige.
But that part of the show is so very dark. But one of my favorite things from this video was the outtake where they blow the horn, and then and then it goes right into the Survivor.
Oh, it's perfect. It was so perfect.
It was so crazy for my brain to remember, like, where have I heard that before? Survivor.
You had a lot of good outtakes, though. Those couple you put in Psych worked out perfectly, too. There's something about Mary and Fist Fight.
Yeah. Danae's outtaking is gone like next level the last couple months. Like she's been killing it.
Well, what's fun is I've never seen something about Mary or that one. So
they worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it takes me a long time to find them, but it's fun to find those. But yeah, that's all. You guys mentioned everything else. Avatars, It's just a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the series.
Speaking of Psych, we can move on to the Psych pilot. This also was a Hughes Watkins script, so I was just taking a break this week, apparently. So
you narrated.
That's true. That is true. So I have never watched this show, but I have been told by many people I would love this show. And it's just kind of one of those that it's like the more people tell me I would love it, it's the more I'm just like, I'm probably not going to get around to it. It's such a weird human thing.
I think you would enjoy this show. I think this show would be right up your alley. I've seen every episode of this show. I've watched, and I haven't seen the movie that dropped on a couple days ago. I haven't watched that yet on Peacock, but which is why we did this.
Yeah.
But I've seen the entire series. I watched a few episodes more than once. It is a really, really fun, enjoyable show. It is never a great show, in my opinion. I really like these USA at this time was doing the whole characters welcome thing. And so you had this was basically the second series, because you had Monk, and then which I also love. And then they did Psych. And then you started getting stuff like White Collar and Royal Pain, shows like that. And I really enjoyed these shows. I thought they were really light. They were just kind of, they never take themselves too seriously, and they were just really enjoyable entertainment, easy, great background kind of series. So I had a really good time with this show. I think the main reason was because of James Roday and Dule Hill. Just them playing off each other was a lot of fun, and we take a send off for that in this episode even. Although this episode's a little rough, but it's still kind of like you were talking about, Aaron, with the Community pilot. I can see in this pilot why I continued to watch the show, because there were characters that I wanted to see. I wanted to see them forward and see what happened. And as much as Danae knocked the crime-solving skills of Sean Spencer, I will say the show actually does have some good mysteries and stuff like that down the road. This wasn't a particularly good one, but they do some fun stuff with that. And they play with a lot of tropes. There's a kind of like Community. There's an episode that's basically a takeoff on Clue, which I, of course, loved. And they do a lot of goofy stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think anytime you can do
it's an enjoyable show. I think you would like it, but yeah, definitely don't think it's amazing, groundbreaking television. It's just entertaining.
The second part of that people have a hard time believing is that I've watched every single episode of Monk and still haven't watched an episode of Psych. It's just I don't know why.
I don't know which is better. They're about the same. If you like Monk, you'll like Psych.
That's what they all tell me. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something about a character that you could kind of relate to, because he's just a normal everyday person, which I suppose a detective is too. Let's just be honest. Somebody who's on solving crimes, they're an everyday person too. They don't have a superpower. Sean's superpower is that his father was oddly like psychologically abusive, maybe in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
And kind of
Corbin
forces
Burnson,
him.
by the way, who's excellent on the series. Sorry.
It's okay. Kind of like forms him into this hyper vigilant, incredibly over aware little child and rewards him for that behavior. And so he kind of can't help but notice things. I think maybe even in any show that's a comedy, there's going to be some leaps to conclusions. And this is riddled with that. Like there's just so many incredible jumps to Sean having full confidence that he knows exactly what is happening in this mystery that's, you know, evolving around him. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, as it's going to. And that's the comedic part of it that you just sort of have to go with. Like I think about the part of the plot that literally depends on the direction of the wind, stuff like that.
Yeah. Or that she would put him on a major kidnapping case because of one thing he did, you know?
Yeah. And that one thing, the reason that he joins, that he's given a chance, is that he points out to the police officers when he's kind of being interrogated at the very beginning to go look in the shoe of the guy that has the tattoo on his face, who's like in interrogation room 2 or whatever. He would have never known that he was in interrogation room 2.
Yeah, or we weren't shown that scene at least.
Yeah, that was cut.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, okay, how is he really psychic? No, he's just making kind of a lot of assumptions. But it is fun, and there is a fun element to it, and you can kind of relate to just, you know, somebody who's kind of a what's the word I want to look like a con artist in a way. He's kind of conny. I'm going to call Sean Connery. He's Sean Connery. Sorry.
I will say the one thing in the pilot that I thought was funny, because I hadn't seen this in forever, going back on his character, was that whole opening scene where like he's about to like have sex with that girl he picked up at a restaurant or whatever. Like that's not something that continues. Like he's not like a ladies' man or anything.
Oh, that's interesting. See,
I mean he the new detective that shows up in the
going
Juliet
forward
character that shows up.
There's a
he kind of
wait,
falls
hold
for
on.
her and is
There's a nude detective.
new.
Oh, sorry.
They all
But
naked, man.
Maggie, for the actress's name. But anyways, the Juliet character, he kind of falls for her, so he's pursuing her.
I think that's smart
for most
because
of
he
the
definitely
series.
came across as a womanizer in this one.
And I would say he gets nicer to Gus, although they always kind of play off each other. But
that was the other thing that bothered me is
Yeah.
I found myself truly uncomfortable with how he treats Gus in the pilot. And I think I've maybe seen a handful of episodes as they were on TV. Again, background, like you said, Jonathan. So I don't have near the relationship with the show that you do. So
Yeah, I mean, he's mean to him. I'm not gonna, but kind of in the way more like friends are mean to each other. Like we were joking about Barrett calling me a dickhead and stuff like that. I think it's kind of more playful, but I don't know. It's entertaining. It's a ridiculous show though. Everything is convenient.
yeah,
and that never changes. But
yeah.
Well, you guys,
if you let yourself go with it, you'll have fun.
You guys send it very well. I'll kick us off as we go into the video. I did find it interesting because the script I was delivered as narrator had a roll credits moment in it, even though it was a TV show. So I had to like kind of on the fly.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Try to figure out like how to make that, because it's one of my favorite sins, because they don't say psych, they say psychic.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Well, and none of us caught that, and even
No.
Barrett even questioned what we were doing with that, and I explained it. He's like, "Oh no, I like that a lot. Keep it in." But none of us
I
ever
didn't
said,
catch
"Oh,
it
we're
until
saying
now."
credits.
You didn't know I changed it?
Nope.
Yeah, I think I went with roll commercials ick.
Ick.
Which
just
was
added
perfect.
the ick or whatever. The sin, can we where you asked to like pattern it after, like how they like discover things in Psych, the clock scene where like zoom in or whatever. I thought that was really fun. Apparently there's some discussion in the comments about what time is actually on that clock. I don't know if we want to address that here or later, but
I mean, we can address it here. It's weird because when the clock is zoomed out, I'm pretty sure that I was right now, but when it zooms in, it's like, oh no, I can see how that would be, because you've
earlier,
got like you can tell that there's other marks. It's very blurry and hard to see. I'm fine with it. I really don't care too much, but I have no idea. Like we all looked at it. Editors, we all looked at it. I don't know if it's weird. It's
we were
really,
just
really
seeing what we
strange.
wanted to see, but I thought it was different.
I was very, very specific to read it multiple times, but maybe when it zoomed in, because I was looking at the full screen, so maybe when it zooms in, it changes it a little bit, where
Yeah.
maybe the second hand is
gotcha.
thicker, or the minute hand is, maybe I got them mixed up somehow. But that was a really interesting thing to point out. It's kind of like one of those moments, like, I don't really know, but I like the Sin. I like the Sin the way that it is.
I do.
And
I like the
that's
Sin.
my
I like
reality.
we were,
So
we were
Right.
playing off the zoom and enhance thing.
yeah, the editors did a great job on that, and they added like the little, instead of it being a yellow highlight, they did like a red Cinny highlight.
Yeah, I loved it. I really did. And the other one I wanted to mention was and I'll just read it. Also, this is a terrible way to introduce a strong female lead, and I hope they find a way to fix this narrative with thoughtfulness instead of sending a mixed message that the affair is somehow just her fault by shipping off the female lead to another department and letting the male lead stay in his position. One of my favorite, good thing that's not going to happen sins that we've had in a while.
And I almost cut it. I did cut it at first because I missed that part somehow. And I even said, like, I cut this because she's not on the show after that. And Danae's like, yeah, I know. That's what the fucking
point.
Sin was about.
Yeah.
And then I went back and read it. I'm like, I'm an idiot.
But that's such a great
I put it back
observation.
in. She thought I left it out because she's like, I guess when we get on BTS, I'm going to talk about that Sin because you cut it. I was like, no, it's in there.
Yeah.
No, it's a great
I was excited to
observation.
see it come back. That was a really shocking part. I guess I'll talk about it in keeping tabs.
Okay, that sounds good. What about you guys? What are some other things from the video you wanted to mention?
The pineapple's welcome. I like we were able to get some play on because it's playing off the USA thing, and then it's also playing off the fact that it's never explained why, but pineapples are a big part of Psych. Like it's just kind of a in joke thing.
There are YouTube videos where it shows all the different places that they show up.
Yep. Yeah, you have people that like look for them and point them out. I love the one going right before the Sin that Erin was just talking about, where she said, I didn't do it the hard way or whatever, and then the Sin is get it the hard way. And then obviously I wanted to know, if that tile ever gets replaced.
Right. It's really important.
And
it's the most important thing.
Speaking of noticing things, there are entirely too many limes in that bowl. I thought that was a prime Danae Sin right there. She notices too much fruit.
That was a massive
better
bowl.
than anybody. Oh, it was insane.
And then the camera shifts, and on the backside there's all these oranges. And I love that in the comment section that's pointed out, someone's like, that bowl is not filled with limes. That bowl has oranges as well. And then there's a conversation back and forth with people talking about, but that's still way too many limes. And I had noticed that there were both. Yeah. And I was like, there's still too many. So I was like, that's exactly why I send it, guys.
Nobody eats that many limes.
Who needs this many?
This is why we exist, people. This is the important work that's being done by this YouTube channel.
I really liked the Sins pointing out, just taking apart the man would never admit to being the murderer this way. I thought that was written really well. I like the sends off that Jonathan wrote for.
Always ridiculous in these types of shows to me.
Yeah. Jonathan wrote a sin off for like the performance that like this actor is just super committing to this crazy weird role, and it is really interesting and entertaining to watch. So I like that. I also like the you remember that time that he might have let that guy get murdered to get positive word out about his new detective agency. Just that run that this is the thing that's gonna stick in my mind as I watch this show forever, is that he let this guy die to promote his agency.
Yeah, and I guess I had to change that up a little bit because they did find out he was already dead, but I still didn't really think that let him off the hook.
But it wasn't clear in the show. I thought he was still alive. So I don't know. But anyways, it was a lot of fun writing with Jonathan on this one.
What was there was an acupuncture sin that was really funny too, that was kind of along those same lines. It was like, just remember, this is the kind of guy that would stick people with needles.
There was a few of those that like, we're supposed to be rooting for Sean, right?
Right,
he kept just kind of sticking it in you. But the thing about the guy admitting that he did it, like I've been rewatching a lot of Murder, She Wrote because the whole series is on Peacock, and even in that, as much as I love that show, it's insane to me that like, this woman, this mystery writer will accuse you of something, and she's right, but there's no way you would be like, yeah, you got me, I'm going to confess everything because this person who has no authority just accused me of killing somebody. It's always, but that's the thing with amateur. If you ever read about writers that write amateur detective shows and novels, that's the thing they always struggle with, is they have to figure out a way to where it makes sense for that person to even be involved. Mm-hmm. And at some point you just kind of have to hope the reader, or whoever goes with it.
Yeah. Great stuff, guys. Great work. I enjoyed that video quite a bit. Let's move on to music video sins. Let's get this right. Camila Cabello.
Yeah.
Camila.
No, isn't it Camila?
It's Camila.
Camila. See, that's how hard it is. Camila.
No.
Cabello.
And here's the thing. In the comments, it's back and forth.
Yeah.
Samuel Pierce says it's Camilla, not Camilla, because there's only one L.
Well, it's not Camilla, but it could be Camila.
There's a interview. The reason I actually wrote on this one because this has been a while since we did this one. But there's an interview of her like on the Tonight Show or something, and she's like, it's Camila, like she pronounces it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, and that makes sense.
Like Camila.
No, absolutely makes sense with the one L that it would be Camila Cabello. So anyway, Camila Cabello consequences, and this is the most important part is figuring out the pronunciation of the name. Can I just say I like this song? I think this is a very mournful but valuable song, and it's interesting coming to this one after the Super Lonely song last week because it kind of deals with the same thing, but it actually has a mature response to it. Like there's an actual answer to this, which is to admit that what you had was exciting, that you were interested in it, that there were things about it that you liked, but also make peace with the fact that it was unhealthy and make peace with the fact that you're moving on. And that's really interesting that we had these back to back.
And she's got an amazing voice. I mean, her voice is perfect for a song like this.
Totally.
So it's easy to get caught up in it.
Barrett said this one was done a long time ago, which Jonathan, you kind of nodded to. This one's been in the hopper for a hot minute and was actually released. I think I can say this because Barrett is dealing with like laryngitis right now.
Definitely.
He's having a really hard time getting his voice back. So we released one that was kind of in the back, and I didn't realize it was going to be Jeremy's voice. So that threw me off when I watched this video. He said it's been there for quite some time, so we had to kind of rewatch it. And he says he really likes the song. He loves Camila, and the video is just okay, but he is a sucker for the piano ballads. So yeah,
I think it's beautiful.
I hadn't heard the song and I hadn't watched the video, but I was moved by it. I liked the sins, of course, but I thought the song was a refreshing change from a lot of ass shaking that I see on MVS.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why she left Fifth Harmony, not specifically ass shaking, but the more exploitive nature of the girl group scene. She's
interesting.
talked about that, yeah. And she's been the most successful of that group, although everyone in that group is very talented. But there's a reason, I think, why she's been able to break out a little easier than the other ones.
Sure. Well, let's talk about those sins today. You mentioned you love them. What were some of the ones you dug?
Oh, all of it.
Is that your way of saying somebody else start?
No, I just had to get back to my notes really quickly.
Got it. Yeah.
I liked pointing out like what's up with pop singers singing about their youth when they are the youth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's super young.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone just like recently who's like 20, and they're talking about their woes, and I was like, woes are cyclical. It's gonna happen, and it gets easier.
Sure.
And I'm like, God, I am the mom now.
Yeah.
I am the mom now.
That's okay. You've earned it.
I know. I'm going into the matriarch portion of the program.
Yeah, because you're beep years old.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving me the editing time in post, Jonathan. I appreciate that. It's very kind.
I love that run-on joke, by the way. Maria Patoka said one of my favorites for an actress, Camila's. Sure, a good singer. That's a little run-on one that I think is fun.
Yeah.
And I like that Sophisticated pointed out that sin counter starts at 1 on this one. Did you guys see that?
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that at all. It starts on 1. Like there's just an automatic sin there at the beginning.
I think like I'm going to go look again just to double check, but I thought that was kind of fun. So.
Okay.
Well, shoot.
Well, Jonathan, what did you catch in the video?
I liked, and I honestly don't remember what I wrote, so I'm just going to throw this out there. I like dirty tissues under the bed. I mean sports. You can tell it's New York because no one thinks it's odd that the woman is walking, singing to herself. And then I love is Camila a fucking scanner at the end? I'm pretty sure that was me, but I thought that was really funny. Oh, and then the whole thing about is she about to fuck a ghost boy? I thought was also very funny. It was very well done video for a very like emotional and like serious song, and we were able to get some stuff out of it.
I enjoyed the sartorial identity crisis of the man in question. The treating it like a rift in European diplomatic relations made me giggle. And then the Time Cop Sin I thought was great. And then Freen Joy. That made me laugh. Freen Joy. So yeah, it was good stuff. What'd you find, Danae? Does it start on one?
It sure does.
Starts on one. Nice catch.
He's gonna lose his mind.
Nice catch.
No. He can't find out.
Well,
when he listens to this podcast, we just have to deny everything.
Let's move on to CinemaSins for the week. We'll kick it off with Extraction, the Netflix movie starring Chris Hemsworth. I saw this. Jonathan, I think you saw this.
Yeah. Chris and I did a mini pod on it.
So who wrote on this one?
This was a Dicer Share script. This was me and Barrett wrote on this one.
Okay.
Danae, I'm assuming you haven't seen this movie. So people.
I mean, I have now.
You've seen
because
the movie?
I watched the Sins video.
Oh, I got it.
That
got
counts.
it. I was like, what?
Yeah, you pretty much saw it. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, for sure. What did you think of it, Jonathan?
I thought it was okay. I think if I remember correctly, I think I gave it like a B- or C+. There's that action scene. What is that? About halfway through?
Yeah,
it's like 15 or 20.
Little less
is
than
it 15
halfway.
minutes, 20 minutes, something like that?
I think technically it's 12 minutes. If I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's obviously very cool. This was the director was, I guess, a stunt coordinator for some of the Marvel films, and I think
he works with
John
the Russo.
Wick.
He works with the Russos quite a bit.
This was the director?
Yeah, Sam Hargrave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, obviously, like the action is shot really in an interesting way, so I like that. But the story, I'm a sucker for you've got to get somebody out of a small area without them I like that kind of narrative. But there was nothing really about this that stood out other than that action scene. I think Hemsworth is giving a good performance. I mean, I think I loved David Harbour walking in. I know you guys kind of made fun of that, but I actually enjoyed that just because David Harbour's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
So there were some moments, but overall, I just thought it was fine. I don't know that I'll ever watch it again.
I remember watching it the first time and really enjoying myself, mostly because of how clever a lot of the action was. And I remember my main takeaway was, and I think I actually put this in the sin removal. My main takeaway was let more stunt directors direct movies because they get this, like they understand it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think you could feel that. Watching it the second time, I was much more aware of how ridiculous the movie is and how silly a lot of it is, and even more extremely aware of how much it handcuffs itself by starting at the end. And it's just it's such a ridiculous decision to start this movie on the end at that bridge. It makes no sense in a narrative way. It makes no sense in a tension way. I don't get it. Somebody would have to explain to me the thinking on.
No, and the following scene that goes back. I mean, you could have easily just started the movie there.
Yes.
I mean, it would have changed. I mean, it would have been fine. There's nothing. It was a perfectly fine starting point.
Yeah. I don't get that at all. I noticed that a lot more the second time.
We talked about that, and that final shot. I just hate it.
The ambiguity of it.
Sin.
Yeah.
That was such a great sin.
Which one was that?
I don't like sequel baiting like that.
Yeah.
The sin at the very end that just kind of this rant about, the blurry figure and could it be, is it just the whole last part of this video is great.
If they make a sequel and he's in it, spoiler alert, I guess, but we spoil it in the sin video, I guess, but it's going to have to be a hell of an explanation. I mean,
dude was shot
dead
through the jugular, man. Like,
oh yeah, no, he is dead. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah, it won't make much sense.
But
he
what
will
if
be
he
back.
was rescued by a mermaid?
Yes, it's very possible.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would have to become like a supernatural thing. Like that's what it would have to become. Like,
which is possible. It's possible,
I mean, hey, look, they brought Freddy Krueger back in one of those with a dog peeing fire. So, once you've done that, yeah, no, this really happened. You can just Google that and you can see this really quick. But,
okay, now just help me understand exactly the verbiage for this Google. Dog pee Krueger.
Yeah, you could probably be like Krueger being brought back from dog piss.
Dog piss Krueger back.
Yeah, something like that. So once you see that, I mean, anything is possible. But there's actually a really funny. You could probably find there's a conversation apparently that Rennie Harlan and James Cameron had because Rennie Harlan was directing that Nightmare on Elm Street movie. James Cameron was like, "I heard you're doing the new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So how are you bringing him back this time?" And he's like, "Well, we're gonna have a dog pee fire."
Perfect.
My almost Googling that just a moment ago reminded
Yeah.
me that recently a fan tweeted at me with a video or something, which I'm actually going to talk about also in keeping tabs. So, but Jeremy's response was like, you need to repeat this mantra. You don't have to Google everything. You don't have to Google everything.
Yeah. I should also note before we get off this dog peeing fire, the dog's name is Jason, which is hilarious.
Oh
It's
my God.
Jason brought Freddy back. Yep.
That's amazing.
Anyways, go ahead.
Do you want me to read what Barrett had to say about Extraction?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Tell us what
please.
Barrett had to say about this amazing film.
Extraction is one dazzling action scene surrounded by a bunch of cliched nonsense.
You're using the hand motions, but I don't hear a difference in the voice, Danae. Nobody can tell you're doing puppets if you don't change your voice.
You're supposed to change it in post.
Did Barrett
How
say
many
anything to you
times
about the
do I
Barrett?
have to tell you?
I didn't see if Barrett listened to the podcast or not. Do you know, has he listened to the Barrett puppet thing?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think
Go
so.
ahead, continue. What did Barrett think?
Everyone is going through the motions in this movie, even the asshole evil guy that makes the kid cut off his finger. I could say the same thing about laziness for this movie, even though it's technically better and more precise. The weirdest part to me was the sudden David Harbour, who really didn't further the plot at all except to move them from place to place. Also, this whole, quote, I suppose you're wondering how I got here, unquote, bullshit at the beginning of every movie these days is really starting to grate on me. So that's what Barrett had to say about Extraction.
There you go. What did you guys think about the video? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
Cool.
I am mostly distracted because I need to come up with a phrase for this, like something where I can just say like a phrase and instantly you guys are going to know what I mean because I say this so much and I feel like a broken record. But since I haven't seen it, I'm watching the fucking video, trying to figure out what's going on, forgetting that I'm supposed to be writing notes.
Yeah.
You're good at coming up
Sure.
with titles and stuff.
How about the distraction of virginity? Virgin distractions. First, it's your first time, and so you're distracted. Virgin eyes.
Yeah.
How did we get into virginity?
That's my favorite thing to be quoted on. Yeah, my virgin distraction segment. Gert.
It's amazing you were able to have a child.
That's right.
It's like my sisters who have never had sex have like 6 children. It's crazy.
It's
I don't
really
know
crazy
how they do that.
It's really, really confusing.
So you get so distracted by the video that you end up not taking notes.
Right. Or just like I'm trying to watch it.
Uh-huh.
Because it's a movie I'm never going to actually watch. So this is like the Cliff Notes version plus snarky, sinning, which is a great combination. So yeah, I mean, there was some ones that kind of stood out to me, but mostly I was also trying to figure out what the plot of the movie is and things like that. I was interested because of the sin about the stuntman who was directing it and that particular driving sequence that actually was praised in this movie. I thought that was interesting. Like, oh, I wonder, because, these guys watch movies all the time. So when they point out a good action moment, I kind of pay attention to that. So maybe that one particular scene I should watch to sort of understand what a standard is. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of appreciated that moment in the video, just for pure curiosity's sake. So, but the ones that stood out to me are ones that are going to be like just easy reaches for me, like confusing Mubai with Mubai by Birdie, or the Goonies from Hell, the Blady Bunch, that kind of stuff. That just those kind of fun things. Pointing out that the kid should be the one in disguise rather than him, because he's just like weird. Plainly in this white shirt, just standing out. Jeremy's gun splody pew pew moment was just fun for me. The CinemaSins cares sin.
Yeah.
Towards the end was really fun for me.
We've done that before, right?
Yeah, that's at the end of my life, that I think that will be my contribution to the CinemaSins canon, because I wrote that the first time during a Pirates of the Caribbean script, and it was about the skeleton sharks. And it was a conversation between the visual artist and, the more common sense person. And it's just like, yeah, but they're skeletons and sharks. Who's even going to care? And so then it was CinemaSins cares.
CinemaSins cares.
Nice.
Yeah.
We care.
And
I really enjoyed that.
And so I've used it a couple times since then. But it's always for those moments where the movie is hoping you'll forget how ridiculous it is because you think it's awesome. That's always the place to use it. And so, I kind of look for those places to have that conversation again. So.
I liked the placement. I thought it was really, really smart. And then I enjoyed a couple of the outtakes, the CSI Scream, obviously, and then the Shawshank Redemption wink was really brilliant.
Yeah, the outtakes were strong.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. What about you, Jonathan?
The set the sepia tone to straight up urine.
Funny note about that. That's a great Barrett sin, and I love it. I put in the noting process, I put, this is hilarious. Also, drink more water.
Because you're saying that was the color of his
I'm saying
urine.
if your urine is that color, bud, you're a little dehydrated.
I need to drink more water as well. Maybe Barrett and I
You're
both need to drink more water.
It was so brown.
Right? I'm like, dude,
I pissed Diet Dr. Pepper.
You may be in trouble.
Like people who drink water, that sin is so different.
Right.
The tone would be like this really light
Let
yellow.
me be honest, right? Like I drink a gallon of water a day at least, and my urine in the morning is slightly yellow, and by about noon it's clear the rest of the day. Like that is how it works for me. So
like for you, that sin's like, nope, this doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
But for Barrett, you're like, drink more water.
I think at best mine is like medium yellow. Like that's a that's a good
shit.
day.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Otherwise it just looks like pond water. I love when we double up on like our own like running things. So I loved the roll credits and that's racist. And we're playing all the hits today, kids. I thought that was fun. Why even bother buttoning any buttons at this point? Rake can kill with a rake was another one I really liked. And then one thing, well, the last thing I had about the video itself was I thought it was hilarious when at one point you guys just said, how many people are there left to kill? Like, where are all these other people coming from? But I have to say that Patreon promo, because that was on this video, that finger effect fucks with me. That thing creeps me out. Like
nice.
It's like the finger coming out of the finger coming out of the finger.
Yeah, it's very Doctor Strange.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is a visual that will haunt me for many years to come. So
you're welcome.
Did that, bravo.
You guys mentioned everything I wanted to talk about. I will say the rake thing, just insinuating that he would kill him with a Tyler the Creator album for whatever reason. Just like, what a stupid stretch. And then getting the chance to use the phrase symbolism, embolism again was fun. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, I had a blast with this one. This was a lot of fun. So.
Oh, and did we mention what is up with this movie and chucking kids off of rooftops? That was also one.
Yeah, I think I had written one that got cut on the first one, rightfully so, because I think what Bear had was better. But I think it was mine was somewhere along the lines of, just so we're clear, I am against child murder or something like that. It's like, I have 0% enjoyment of movies with child murder. Let's move on to robots. This was a Hugh Scott script. Danae and Jeremy writing on this one.
See, sometimes it's like, oh, what did Danae write on? And then other times it's just like everything.
That's right. This is one
of
Danae
those.
Week.
Yeah, this is the Danae show. This is one of those movies that like I cannot figure out if I've seen it or not. Which means I've probably seen parts of it, because like I definitely didn't see it when it came out, but my daughter, when she was really young, she would just watch whatever was on. So like we probably did see parts of this movie because it was on like Disney or something, or I don't know who made this, but it was on like, TBS or something.
Yeah.
But I was watching it going, I think I kind of remember this.
I have seen it. I saw it when it came out. I have not seen it since. And I remember, the only thing I remember thinking is, this is one of the dumbest movies I have ever, like one of the most lowest common denominator farting poop joke, like, movies I've ever seen.
Who made this? Is it Illumination or?
I'll look it up. But Danae, what did you think of the movie? Because was it your first time?
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before, but I had the same thought, because there's actually this moment, and I was trying to find a way to send it. Maybe I submitted it in my script and it didn't make it to the final cut, but where the robot, like, I don't know, was it a chassis, like the exterior of the robot, like the shell of the robot was removed, and it's just pipes that are like little like a little stick figure, but pipes underneath. And I mean, I thought so much while watching this, how does any of this work? How are any of these things alive or moving? Because they, consume grease, but when they I remember when it was there's a scene when they wake up in the morning at like the lady's house, and she serves them quote unquote coffee in a cup, and it's like hot grease or whatever, and they just pour it onto their bodies. They don't even put it in their mouth to go and lubricate their pipes. They just pour it onto their bodies. And I'm just like, what the hell is this movie?
I feel like this is like Cars, right? Where you've just kind of got to accept it or not accept it. Like that's gonna really affect your enjoyment.
It was an interesting one to try
Cars
to
is a much better movie.
Perceive and understand, like robot sentience and all, and like there's
was,
robots that are making robots that are, and then like then you can make a robot in this world because a robot makes a robot, and then you also can like get a baby robot and then grow it into a bigger robot, or you can just get a bigger robot from like an adult robot and just assemble it as an adult.
Just the whole idea of why on earth would the process that people navigate towards be to continually rebuild their offspring, every few months as they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, no, just, order a baby and have a baby forever, or order a teenager if you want a teenager, or
like the joke. There's a joke in as he grows, as I think, is it Rodney?
Mm-hmm.
As he grows up, that his next hand-me-down parts is the upper chassis. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, so apologize.
No,
but
you're
the
good.
upper part, the torso is a female torso, and so he graduates high school as a male with a female torso, like breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
that's the
progressive.
joke. Is that kind of thing. But I just forces me to wonder if you can just wait until a different part shows up. Why not wait? It's not like there's a timeline you have to graduate from your robots.
Yeah.
Or just, are there chips? Are there computers? Because, this is, they just didn't think it through. So you're totally right. It was just the lowest
weird,
common denominator for humor. It all's there, and it also leans really heavily into pop culture stuff, like with the Got Milk, Ricola, Britney Spears. Like there's all these sort of like of that era hits. The music that they use, which we couldn't play obviously, but the music that they use is all centered around like that era when it came out. So it doesn't like even age easily, because you're going to see like a Got Milk poster or a Got Grease poster or whatever in the background. But does anybody now even know what that is? Does that age well?
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to hear Robin Williams' voice again, though.
Oh, yeah. I miss that dude.
There's something about him that's just so like joy and tragic now at the same time. And
because that joy is hiding something,
Yeah.
And that's, I feel that same thing when I hear him. Yeah.
I feel like the animation style is really good, though.
My God, yes. It's
I'm
so
sure
fun.
if you listen, the music and stuff would tip it off. But like, I will say the animation style though doesn't say like it's 2005. Like,
no,
that animation totally holds up. It's too bad it's not part of a better movie.
Yeah, it's like it's steampunky and unique, and it's a fun world to go into. I just don't feel like it was fleshed out very well, which is why I was really impressed with Jeremy pointing out like the writing and stuff like that there were 6 writers on this. He did have thoughts too. I probably should read those.
Yeah, before you do, it is Blue Sky Studios, which is the 20th Century Fox animation department. So, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That must have been one of their first ones.
I think so. Yeah, what did Jeremy have to say?
A lot of what we've already said, but I'll just kind of, so that he can have his quote-unquote voice heard here on the show. He said, robots is just laziness. It's a lazy premise. A kid doesn't want to stay in a small town. He wants to make something of himself in the big city, and then tries to spin every single joke out of the fact that it's robots instead of people. Robin Williams was used better in Bicentennial Man. The film mistakes Rube Goldbergian shit for action, and most of the puns don't even make sense. Like there's a guy we see briefly on a toilet saying, "This is my third oil change," or whatever. Like oil changes are to robots what pooping is to humans. They also eat grease. Grease is in ice cream. Grease is everything. Like grease to robots is not what food is to humans. It's honestly some of the laziest pun writing I've ever seen. They truly just thought some robot puns up, and a rambling Robin Williams was going to be enough, and it was. The movie was a hit, and I hated it. None of the vocal performances are standout despite a great cast, and the finale is just a Bug's Life with robots. It's fine for kids, but insulting to anyone over a 10th grade reading level. I would like to take an oil change all over this movie's face so it can eat my grease.
That was one of my favorite sins, by the way, that this movie is actually a lot of things with robots, but right now it's a Bug's Life with robots.
But robots.
He's not wrong. it's still 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. That blows my mind. This is just such a bad movie. But I think that maybe it's just that likability factor. Maybe it's just, you let everything else go because, you like the character voices. Ewan McGregor and Robin Williams and,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mel Brooks.
Yeah, and I think there's always something fun about seeing people as other things, or like people as Transformers as then animals, or like there's just like to see something as something else is just fun, or like Brave Little Toaster style, like oh, that's an interesting world. Cars, like these sort of universes where you're just thinking about what everyday life would be like for a robot. And I think at the time this was a really unique perspective, and it didn't have to have a lot of bulk and a lot of interesting elements storyline wise, or more substance to it to be interesting to watch. And that's why people watched it, because this was an early animation, I think. So
yeah.
Anyway,
let's talk about the video itself. I'll kick us off this time. Of course, Robot Chicken made me giggle quite a bit. It's so simple and so perfect. Worst example of words on pages that I've ever seen was hilarious, and trying to pronounce it was just great. The hand-me-down boy parts, thanks movie, and now you made me think of hand-me-down boy parts. I thought was really funny. I also noticed that like the fact that Robin Williams' character is introduced to him by like trying to sell him something, but then and there's a scene about this, and then they're almost like immediately traveling in this like ball, through this world. Immediately I'm like, that is Ralph Breaks the Internet. Like he gets to the internet world and is, tried to, sold something by this guy, and then they're rocketing in these balls through this internet world. I was just like, wow, it's interesting how those parallels sometimes happen.
So Ralph Breaks the Internet ripped off robots.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't have the bolts to admit it's an hour and a half of bad puns was hilarious. That you stole one of its bad puns in the sin itself. In the Hamilton references were great. I loved those. Want Me to Take It Out and Ask It was probably my favorite after it's like, there's a head in the basket.
Lots of love in the comments for the Hamilton stuff.
Yeah. And
that was all Jeremy.
And this list is much shorter than I thought it would be. It was
I had that
so
one down.
funny. It was good. What about you, Jonathan?
Well, I thought, the other pun one was you guys said your comedy can't be all puns. I felt like that was directed at Aaron, maybe. Like
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
And then Aaron mentioned a few I had. I did enjoy Jeremy singing Somewhere Out There Beneath the Robot Sky.
Right. And do you know what? He actually, when we were doing the review and our editing software on that one, I wrote to him because it's fun working with Jeremy, because when you comment on how he performs, like he gets to actually see it because he's your partner. And so I was like, man, I love this so much. And he made reference that he purposefully cracked his voice and hit the wrong note, just like Feifel did.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing. And then I think I only had a couple things written down that Aaron didn't talk about. This movie is to humor what Scary Movie 4 is to Airplane. I thought was right on. And that's all I had.
Very nice. Danae, anything else you wanted to bring out about the video?
I really liked being able to point out that adjusting your neck is a really bad idea. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed that one a lot.
So you mean just in general, like cracking your neck's a bad idea?
Yep.
Oh,
I mean, like you can
that.
go to a professional to do it. Somebody who actually knows how to do it, but you should not do that yourself.
I don't know that I've done that, but that's interesting. I did not.
Yeah, you don't like grab your head where you've got like the left hand on top of your head and the right hand at your chin, and then like purposefully jack your neck to the left or the right. Like that's that's what the character does in this particular movie. Jeremy did this one that's just like, get out of my house, male robot. Just the anger of this robot showing up in your house. I don't know why that one really genuinely made me laugh. You already mentioned the chicken in your pants joke, which I really loved. And then the way that Jeremy delivered the show some respect to the woman who let you ride in her ass. Wait, no, that's right.
Yeah.
I loved how he delivered that one. So
yeah,
that's all I had. You guys said everything else.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to tell a story from putting together the content for the week, maybe a Google search, some strange research, deleted sin, whatever we would like to do. I guess I'll kick us off because I only wrote on the one thing this week, and that was extraction. And there was a lot of conversation in the comments about the sniper sins. There were a couple of sniper sins. And so that was probably the most research I did on this, was from snipers who talked about the sniper action in this movie being ridiculous and those kind of things. And I think we took off we put on 15 sins just at the beginning just for how ridiculous the sniper action in this movie is. But there are times when snipers are hitting headshots that are in helicopters that are 20 feet above them. And so talking about the idea of how you would have to balance that sniper rifle, how you would do that. The very first headshot is through a mesh, and it doesn't break any of the the little pattern there, the clay pattern kind of thing. So there's a lot of that I just kind of is that possible? Yes, technically it's possible. Is it likely? No, it is not likely that they would be this amazing. And then beyond that, the sound traveling. Sniper rifles usually shoot ammo that travels faster than the sound does. So if you get hit by a sniper, you won't hear it till after you're dead, kind of thing. I think
that's interesting.
I think there's a movie line where somebody says something about if you hear it, it wasn't meant for you.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done.
So that should be, you shouldn't hear a sniper's shot, and then also the that you hear in the movies a lot of times. So I've just always noticed that. Now, there was a comment that was very in detailed in the comments from somebody who knows a lot more than I do, apparently, about...
Who's a sniper, maybe?
Maybe, possibly, I don't know. But they talked about there are different kinds of rounds. There are subsonic rounds as well as sonic rounds, or some. Anyways, some that do go slower than sound. And they seem to think that this gun he was using is one of those guns. So it's possible this is you done messed up, Aaron. I don't know, but I did do the research. And for the most part, snipers do shoot ammo because of the distances they cover to impact the gravity that's going to be over that distance and the air resistance and all those things. They have to use these rounds that go faster than sound. So it's very rare for a long distance sniper not to do that. But maybe I'm wrong, and I'm more than willing to admit I'm not a sniper, and my research can only go so far. So I don't.
I get out of all the possibilities of something Aaron could have done in his life, I think sniper would not even.
Well, listen, that was the urban legend about Mr. Rogers, right? People love that kind of thing where the nicest guy was a sniper in the the armed forces or whatever. So there's still people who believe that.
Yeah, but you've said you're glad you have your wife because if there was an intruder, you wouldn't know what to do. So I don't think you're.
Let's clarify. It's not that I wouldn't know what to do.
Oh, not yeah. Sorry.
It's that I wouldn't want to take someone's life, and I don't think I would be able to take someone's life. So
I think being a sniper, that would be kind of a prerequisite.
yes. I think you're right. Jonathan. Anyhow, that's my keeping tabs. I did do the sniper research, but maybe I didn't do enough. Who knows? What do you got today?
I was tweeted. So I did this. My keeping tabs is I've got two, but I briefly wanted to mention that I did another meaningless poll on Twitter recently, and this time it had over 1,000 people participate, which was a little shocking to me.
I retweeted it.
Yeah, it was retweeted, I think 6 or 7 times, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is.
I was like, Blarp Nation, let's do this or something.
Yeah. So you could vote between. So my meaningless polls are things it's just meaningless stuff. So this time it was you could vote on blip, bloop, blarp, or bleep, and I was informed that blurp should have been an option. I believe it was Jeremy himself who may have said, "You have disrespected the blurp." And so then it goes into this whole thing. At Bryce Moyer says Jay Bunner, I don't know, has entered the chat. And I was like, what is that? And so that was what I ended up Googling, where then Jeremy said that the mantra suggestion is you don't have to Google everything that you read. You don't have to Google everything you read. I learned that there is this sports person who invented the word blurp, which essentially is him burping and vomiting at the same time.
Oh, fun.
Oh my God.
And he called it blurping. It's a combination. It's a great hidden talent, and it bothered the people on his team. I am super just hitting bullet points here
Do you
because
have the name?
The name of the person.
Mm-hmm.
I just said it. Hold on, let me see if I can find it again.
What is
JBUHNER.
Oh, Jay Buhner.
Buhner.
He played for the Seattle Mariners.
So I guess there's like this famous moment when essentially he was blurping on purpose and he made his teammates. And so like the whole dugout started to get sick because they were all having that reaction that people sometimes do. When some person gets sick, another person gets sick. It's kind of like that reaction thing. I stopped reading.
There's no universe where that shouldn't be called a barp, right? Like that is
Yeah. It's like a shart, right?
Yeah. That's a barp. I have no clue, like, or a burf. You know, I just like I did.
You called it a blurp.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's just the
someone
wrong
with gastrointestinal
name.
issues here. Sharts are real.
Sharts are real.
I think everybody knows that.
PSA.
I don't think you have to have
It's
intestinal
always at the
issues to know that
worst
that's
possible moment.
that's true.
Anyway, I had to just do a throw out for that one.
God, Jay Buhner. What a doofus.
He said, we have to examine, this is the person on Twitter said, we have to examine that he executed a triple blurp and made the entire Seattle outfield throw up at the same time. There you go.
Oh, fair enough.
So a little sports thing that I got to look up.
I saw him live when I was a kid. I saw a Mariners White Sox game and he hit I remember. And now that was the memory I had of Jay Buhner. Now I have a completely different one.
You're welcome.
No, I love it. I love it.
And then women were throwing up in their purses. Twins were throwing up on each other. Sorry. Stand by me reference. Continue.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I figured it was
Absolutely.
something. But related to like a script, I did do some research on Psych to find out more about the character who was like the person, the female lead. I didn't realize that she was immediately replaced. And it was really interesting to discover that essentially once the pilot had been reviewed, it had negative feedback because the two characters, the detective and this female detective, were having technically an affair. But it was the guy was getting a divorce. And so, but the people who watched the show didn't really equate that he was getting a divorce. They really only heard they were having a secret affair. And so it negatively impacted the vibe, and her character essentially became discredited to the audience. So that they obviously, like as we talked about in the show, made some changes. They brought in a brand new character. But what was frustrating for me that I was thankful to point out in the script is that this happens regularly, is the female is sort of excommunicated and sent off to go do another job, but the male gets to stay at his position. And I found that interesting to see that in culture or in our the entertainment that we consume. And it happens in real life too. I actually know somebody who was fired from her job for having an affair, but the guy wasn't fired.
And it's such a meaningless plot point too. Like them having an affair has no effect on that episode. And I almost think they could have, even if they wanted to keep her, they could have gone in and reshot a couple things and
right.
You know,
and that was the thing I kept thinking is if the actress was great, I thought she was great.
Yeah.
You know, there could have been a way to address it because, you know, affairs are a real part of life and people are caught sometimes. And what if there was a redeeming thing? What if he really was getting a divorce? And, you know, they worked that out in the plot somehow. But because the audience reacted so negatively, they're like, nope, this is tarnished. Let's just get rid of this character. Let's ship her off and start over again.
And people don't never know what's going on in those situations. I mean, I technically started dating my wife before my divorce was final, but at the same time, like I had been out of the relationship with my ex-wife for almost 2 years at that point. You know, I mean, it's right. You know,
and that's the thing. Like, what if that had been highlighted and talked about? Now, obviously, this is a comedy detective series. I don't know that people are coming to that, and it's very early in their series. Maybe they could do something like that once the show matures. But I just found that to be interesting in my research to sort of just discover why a character, because I really like that actress a lot, and so
I do too. And I think when we talked about this a little bit at the time, like I'm a little torn about it because I do like her, and of course at the time I didn't really know who she was, but I've seen her in other things since. But I also really like Maggie Lawson, who comes on the show, and she kind of becomes such a big part of the show.
Right.
But if she never came and that person stayed on, I wouldn't know any different. So, you know, It's kind of
but
a
then,
weird...
and you know, maybe he would have continued to be a womanizer, and I wouldn't have wanted to watch a show like that. So
that's a crappy way to lose a job on a.
It is a crappy way to lose a job.
Acting is insane. I applaud anyone who can maintain a career of acting, because just the stuff that you get ridiculed about,
right?
Just the littlest things that stop you from being able to be on a show or a movie. Ugh.
Yeah,
like your shoulders are too high, bullshit like that. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
I didn't really do any research on anything because Psych, I knew most of. I mean, I there was nothing I had to research, and then Avatar, I read some episode synopses. But I will talk about, though. I guess this is as good a place as any. I tweeted out something about The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, this movie from 1990, just celebrated like its 30-year anniversary, and I tweeted out something about my intro being, I guess, a sort of homage to something in that movie, and I had a few people ask me to further explain that. So I guess I'll do that here. I don't know if it's really an homage, but so Robert Englund, who oddly enough plays Freddy Krueger, going back to the dog pissing on somebody. The Adventures of Ford Fairlane is not a particularly good movie. Also, weird other connection to this movie. Rennie Harlan also directed this movie. Good God. But anyways, it's not a particularly great movie or anything, but it was just a movie I watched as a child and thought it was kind of funny. It was Andrew Dice Clay. This is like primo Andrew Dice Clay era, where he's doing his dirty nursery rhymes and all that stuff. So Hollywood came and tried to give him a movie career. So he's basically playing like the Andrew Dice Clay persona in this movie. Have you ever seen this movie, Aaron?
I don't think I have.
Okay. So Robert Englund plays like a bad guy in the movie. He's not the main bad guy, but he's like a henchman. And he's like, I can't remember if Robert Englund actually is Australian, but I believe his character in this movie is Australian. I don't think but I could be wrong about that. But so in one of the things, a couple of times in the movie, he just says, hello, hello. But he does it like he's like, hello, hello. Like that. Like he's got like an accent. And that's always just something that's stuck in my head. And so it's just something I randomly started saying all the time when I would like, being silly, introducing myself and things like that. So it just kind of stuck with me. So I guess it's such a silly movie for me to have any connection to with anything I do.
Right.
But that's kind of the way you just never know like what piece of pop culture is going to is going to stick with you.
Yeah. It just happens that way.
And become a part of like your makeup, I guess. But but that's why that's where the hello. That's the only time I've ever heard hello, hello is from that movie. And for some reason, it just stuck with me.
There's a lot of good ones. I think I'll often do the hello.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There's, good, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. There's some good ones. So.
I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife. It was like a salutation or whatever on Clue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff, but that's the one that's always stuck with me for some reason.
Nicely.
And people would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like I'd just be like in high school going, "Hello, hello," and they're like, "What are you doing? Are you?"
I had no idea that was a thing. I was so shocked by that. I was like, "Wait, this is a thing?"
It's not like, I wasn't really, it was kind of subconsciously, like when I just started doing that, I just like, well, I'll just keep doing that because it, stay consistent with your intros. Kind of like Aaron does the Hidely host in Urinos whenever he's on Sincast.
Yep.
It was just a very simple thing to just, I don't have to come up with something every time. I don't want that pressure.
I just want to let you know it's not that hard. You just look at something and you say it out loud. A button.
No, you are great at that. I would actually be stressed out every day. Like, what am I going to say?
Danae's like, doesn't matter what you say. My intro is a button. What?
So I'll just, I was like, I'll just quote Robert Englund. Why not?
I love it.
Don't
That's
fear
so cool.
Don't fear the non sequitur. That's great. That's great. Let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're just going to take a look at comment, some sort of feedback from the last week. Jonathan, you're going to kick us off on this one.
So there was some stuff on Psych there was a few comments about Gus. And one of them, because we talked about how Gus didn't add anything to the team. I was in no means saying Gus isn't a good character. I was just saying I wasn't really sure what he brought to the table, like in that investigation or whatever. But we had Max Aaronstein said, "Excuse me, Gus has the super smeller and a magic head, not that head. That's what else he brings to their team up." And that is true. He has a super smeller that we find out throughout the series. And then Nova 348 said Gus is the best character in this show, period. I might agree with you. And then just something that I thought was funny, Roger Thornton said, I can't believe you send Psych. And then he said, come on, son, which is actually a Gus saying, Gusism.
Nice.
You want
I like it.
Yes. The Psych comments were actually very pleasant for the most part.
I thought so too.
I forgot how many people love that show though.
Yeah,
it's got a fan base for sure.
Yeah.
Mine comes from the robots comment section, and it quotes a sin that says, "Today I learned that robot romance makes me gag," and then they say, "Wally would like to know your location."
I loved that one so much. It's so funny.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you. That was Cartoon Master. Thank you for that. Danae, what about you?
Yeah, mine comes from Twitter. At Phototony says, and it gets a little serious. I just want to give you guys a little heads up. It's not a downer. It's just a kind of a amazing nod to the community. But he says, in the past 8 months, my Aunt Donna died, my Uncle Jerry died, my Aunt Marcia died, and my dad had a heart attack. Through it all, I have relied on my friends, my family, CinemaSins podcast, Sincast, and Behind the Sins. You don't know me, but you keep me going. Jeremy replied directly with some condolences and a thankfulness to be a small part of the world. Phototony continues, one person can't change the world, but they can make a dent. Well, you and the rest of the CinemaSins crew have made one hell of a positive dent in my life, and I'm sure the lives of many others. You may, quote unquote, just run a YouTube channel and have a podcast, but you're having a positive impact on people, and what you do matters. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. I thought not only was this wonderful to read as somebody personally on the CinemaSins team, but it's also something that everybody can remember is that what you do in your life makes an impact. Doesn't matter what your quote unquote just is. You might just do this or just do that. And we can kind of downplay that we have a positive impact on people. And you should never do that, because when you take a moment and say you care, or you're just being you, and it can really genuinely change the atmosphere around you and the people around you. And we really, really appreciate all of that feedback. I can tell you from the behind the scenes world, anytime we get emails that say something like this from our members on Patreon or from fans on Twitter or even emails, and we share them amongst our team, it's always taken very humbly. And I think most of the people on the team continue to be shocked that the entertainment that we do, the fun that we have, is something that brings you guys true, genuine joy and meets you in your hard times. I don't think that was something that was expected. And so thank you for sharing that stuff with the team. I think it's important for us to know, but it's also important for you guys to know that the same thing for you. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to highlight
I
that
tell
one.
my wife all the time, I will genuinely never get this. And then, of course, she immediately says, yeah, I don't either, because I know. But no, she actually did. The first time she came and watched, she came to the Wizard Con thing that Aaron and I were at in Nashville. And she remembers, like, people were, like, talking to Chris and, like, asking Chris questions. And she was sitting there thinking, like, that's just Chris. Like, what the, like, why are people so interested in Chris? But you know, it's a really weird experience. I'm grateful, and it's amazing to hear these things. But like, yeah, I just genuinely, like, I will never get why someone cares what I have to say about something. I'm glad they do.
Thank you. That was very good, Danae. Thank you for sharing that. It's always humbling, and we're very thankful for all of you.
100%.
Let's move into Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wildest dreams.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're each going to talk about something else from the world of pop culture that we've seen recently. And Jonathan, why don't you kick us off on this?
Okay, I've got, I'll do them really quick, but I just have two podcasts that I've just kind of started listening to. Because I hadn't really I kind of went off podcasts for a minute, and then over the last week or so, I've been trying to get caught up on some, and I just discovered both of these, so I thought I'd mention them. One of them has been around for about a year. In fact, I think it's basically been a year. I think he started like in June or July of 2019, and the most recent episode was the 31st episode, so it's not too many yet. But it's my favorite, talking about my favorite kind of horror movie, like my wheelhouse is gothic horror. Especially as I've gotten older, I've just really gotten a lot more into classic cinema and stuff like that. So gothic horror has become a thing. And even when I was a kid, like my mom introduced me to like the Universal monster movie. And then eventually I started watching like the Hammer horror monster movies and stuff. And so I just really enjoy that. Most horror movie podcasts focus more on like 1980 and forward, and then maybe they tackle some of the big ones in the 70s, which I completely get. But I was really excited to find this podcast. It's called Cobbwebb. It's a gothic cinema podcast. It's done by Daniel Epler, who you can follow on Twitter. He's a great follow on Twitter. I believe if you just look up his name, Epler is his last name. And the episodes run anywhere from like 30 minutes to a little over an hour. But he sometimes it's just him, sometimes he has a guest. I've listened to about 8 or 9 episodes, and just kind of picking and choosing movies I've already seen or movies I want to revisit, and then I listen to it. But he's basically just going through and doing, gothic horror. He's doing like, a lot of the Hammer movies, a lot of the Edgar Allan Poe adaptations from the 60s that Roger Corman did. And then he's even done some semi more recent stuff. Like there's an episode I haven't listened to yet, but he has an episode on Batman Returns. So just anything that kind of tackles the gothic area is kind of where he's going, which is just a big boom for me because I love listening about stuff like that. And I love those kind of
nice.
So if that sounds interesting to you, it's called Cobbwebbs, a gothic cinema podcast. And then the other one I'll talk about real quick is an older podcast, but I just now started listening to it. It is called the Purple Stuff Podcast. They've been around for a few years, but they're kind of intermittent with their episodes. Like their latest episode was 73, so there still isn't that many episodes. But they're really fun. It's just these two guys. Their names are Jay and Matt, and they just they're clearly like kids of the 80s, like me and Aaron. And so they just talk about just a lot of random stuff like that. They talk about they have episodes on toys, and they have episodes on movies, and there was this one episode I listened to where they were watching a TV show that they had recorded on VHS back when it aired, and they were talking about the show and the commercials and all that kind of stuff. They've had episodes where they've talked about like they've made up their own like Halloween soundtracks or Christmas soundtracks. The most recent episode that I just finished listening to today was they go through their all-time favorite sodas. And they start, I mean, it's just like such a nostalgic kick because they start talking about like Hubba Bubba soda and like Apple Slice. And also they entered Faygo, which have you had Faygo? Because that's a Michigan thing.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Faygo was a huge part of my childhood.
I really want to try Faygo now. Apparently they still make it, and there's like 8 million flavors.
Yeah, so many flavors.
But we don't have it here. So
orange Faygo and grape Faygo were usually the ones that would make the biggest appearance.
Yeah, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because when I drink I drink grape and orange soda here, but it's like it's knee high or
Crush.
Crush is kind of the big one here, yeah. But I don't know. It was just kind of fun. It's just a really fun podcast. They just kind of talk about whatever they want, but it's very, like I said, for me being a kid at the same time, it's a lot about nostalgia and all that kind of stuff. So if you were a kid of that same era, or if any of that sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend it. It's called the Purple Stuff Podcast.
Awesome.
So that's mine.
Awesome. Danae, what do you got?
So I've been obviously on Webtoons. I talked about that a lot. But I came across one that I am actually kind of excited to share because it's for sure something that I think would be more of like a horror genre. And so the art is really, really good. The story is really intriguing. It's definitely creepo. There's blood and violence and like creepy thoughts or whatever. So I was going to talk about it, but then whenever I was looking into it and kind of researching it, I'm realizing that the Webtoons comic, which is called Not Even Bones by Stephen Lamb and Ale Scenario, I might say that wrong, but just look up Not Even Bones, is actually based on a book series. So there's apparently a series of books called The Market of Monsters, and it is by Rebecca Schaefer. So I think the web comic is maybe fan-based. I really didn't figure out how the people who are drawing and creating the art on Webtoons are, if they're connected to the author directly, like if they have permission to do this or what. So I'm not sure about that. I've not solved a mystery here, but there is the first book is called Not Even Bones. It was released in 2018. And it is a twisty, grisly, genre-bending, and immersive. Not Even Bones will grab you by the throat and drag you along as it gleefully tramples all of your expectations. It's pretty good. Cool. That sounds pretty good. It's super dark. Oh, another person said Dexter meets This Savage Song. in a dark fantasy about a girl who sells magical body parts on the black market until she's betrayed. And that's kind of a little bit more of the genre. It starts off dark quick, but it's also in webcomic form light enough that I'm like, I'm not like not here for this. And you're obviously rooting for the main character, trying to figure out what's going on. And it pretty quickly in the webtoon kind of gets you where you're comfortable with continuing to read it. And then, of course, it's all based on material that I don't know. I kind of want to go read it because I love reading. It's been a long time since I've devoured a series. And this one is really, really different. And that when it's talking about like genre bending, like there's the people in this universe have powers X-Men style. But apparently there's people who like they're like suppressed and they're sold, and like people want to consume even parts of them to see if they get powerful from it. So it's a darker kind of look at what could happen in a world where there's people with powers. So I don't know what happens.
Neat.
I'm just getting into it, but it sounds like something, I don't know, that maybe several people in the audience might find. Maybe horror fans would kind of enjoy something like this. So I thought that I would bring this one to the table today.
Very nice. Ooh. So the book series is The Market of Monsters, and the webtoon is Not Even Bones. Is that correct?
Yep.
Very cool. I'm going to talk a little bit about the HBO documentary Showbiz Kids, and we may actually even have some further outtakes on this because we did discuss it before we started recording too. But this is a documentary on exactly what you would think it might be with that title, about children who grew up in the showbiz industry and what that meant to them, how that experience was for them. It features interviews with people like Will Wheaton, Evan Rachel Wood, Mila Jovovich, and many, many others. Todd Bridges is in there quite a bit. What's the guy's name who is the kid in E.T.? Because he's a big part in it too. Henry Thomas, yeah.
And you also have, what is the kid from Jesse and the Descendants, and he actually passed away recently.
Oh, yeah.
Cameron Boyce?
Yeah, Cameron Boyce. And some of my favorite stuff in the documentary is from Cameron Boyce. He just seems so honest and forthcoming about some stuff, and he tragically died in his sleep due to a seizure shortly after he filmed the interviews for this movie. And it goes all the way back to child stars of the silent film era too. So it covers a really wide span. It was done by Alex Winter, who you may know as from Bill and Ted, as the not Keanu Reeves character from Bill and Ted. He is Bill. But who has since then become more of a behind-the-scenes director type person and has dealt with his own kind of growth through this kind of stuff. So you could tell he was really passionate about the material. And I just think this is a very well put together and respectful documentary on real human beings who lived a very different life than most of us will ever understand. And I just gained so much empathy watching this for those people and what they went through. I also didn't mention Mara Wilson, right?
Mara Wilson.
Yeah, Mara Wilson, who you may remember as the little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire, and she was also in several other things then too. And so I would highly recommend seeking this out, checking it out, and kind of hearing these stories and just thinking even deeper about the just the impressionability of children and having them work in this kind of environment and for our entertainment. You know, there's almost an aspect of it that is challenging, that is gladiatorial in some ways, of like, entertain me, child, you know, kind of thing to it that I think we all have to kind of wrestle with a little bit. So I found it wonderful and would highly recommend it.
And it's, I really liked it too, and I was really thankful for you recommending it to us. You got like 3 of us to watch it.
Yeah, it was fun in the Slack chat. Everybody was like popping it on and watching it. Yeah,
but I don't know if this had to do with Winter or if it is just the actors were more than willing just to do it. But like, I don't know if it was just him the way he questioned them or what. But I mean, they're really free to just speak their mind, and it never feels like exploitive or anything.
Right.
Like they were exploited,
right?
Obviously. Oh, and Todd Bridges. We didn't mention Todd Bridges is also one of the actors that talks on there. And that's one thing I really liked about it. Like, I didn't feel like it was taking sides or anything like that. It was just very much them presenting what their experience was. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just great, all of them. Evan Rachel Wood kind of stood out to me for some reason.
Too.
I it was just the maturity. I don't know, something about the way she presented it was interesting. And then just the stuff about the parents was the worst part of it for me.
Yeah.
It made me very, like, I wanted to call my mom and just tell her I loved her after watching that. Because even if I had been an actor, I don't think she would have done those things to me. But then some of it, you don't even know if it was intentional. Like Henry Thomas tells a whole thing about his mom just was so scared that somebody was going to take advantage of him. You know, that's how it came across, that it ended up being kind of off-putting for everybody else. So he became considered difficult to work with.
Right. And they talk about that. They talk about the idea that even as children, if there's almost a usury aspect to it where it's like, well, you know, if you're going to complain, there's thousands of others that would be more than willing to do this. So put up with it. Take the abuse. Take the whatever happens to you. That's just part of the deal kind of thing.
Like Will Wheaton talks about getting yelled at because he couldn't eat a brownie right. And I mean, it's crazy. But the Henry Thomas audition tape, which I've seen before, that kills me every time.
It's astonishing. And if you don't know what Jonathan's talking about, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Immediately search it out. His audition tape for E.T. is kind of mind-blowing. And it ends with Steven Spielberg saying, okay, kid, you got the job, because it's just like, I mean, it is so real. I don't know where he went as a child to feel that, but he was feeling it, and it's just it is a mind-blowing audition.
It might be it's definitely up there in the conversation of best child performances. It's up there. I
will tell you this,
that's an insane.
I recommend it wholeheartedly. I think it's well worth watching, and honestly, this is one of those documentaries. This is a weird thing, it doesn't happen with a lot of documentaries. I kind of want sequels. Like, I kind of want it to be a docu-series, and I want the next batch of child actors to speak honestly about what we've done to them as an entertainment society. You know what? Like, I think it's such a valuable thing that I want to continue to hear more voices on it. I don't know. I'd like
to hear the kids that were doing like the Dance Mom series.
Sure,
any of those kind of. I'd like to see them. And I remember when Dance Mom started to get really popular, I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, you know, in 15 or 20 years, I'm going to be real curious what these girls have to say. Because they're going to be adults out from underneath their parents and have more of an ability to speak about whether this was something that they even wanted to do and what trauma they were exposed to from being in this like highly competitive environment that is inflated because there's a television show there that's there for the drama.
And you get a lot of that on this documentary too, where these kids talk about, like, I mean, they're adults now, but they talk about when they turned 18 and they realized that, like, they didn't need their parents anymore. They could not do it anymore if they didn't want to, you know, and it became like this kind of weird thing. I don't know. That would be really interesting to hear, like, the reality kids.
Yeah, because even the kids same thing, right?
Like growing up Chrisley, or I mean, any of these reality shows, the younger Kardashians, you know, I mean, it's all that.
John and Kate +8, you know, or, you know, any of the big family ones, or, you know, those kind of things, like the Duggars or whoever it might be, you know, it's
what Little People Big World, for example, you know, where we're watching people because it's curious to watch people, but, you know, as they grow up and they didn't have a choice, like, do they look back on that and feel like that they were, I don't know.
Yeah, the exploitation.
They didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
you know.
Or, and what struck me about this documentary is, the ability as a child to express the emotions you're having is such a hard thing. And Will Wheaton specifically talked about, I didn't have the words to tell them that I was being abused or that I was, you know, like, I just didn't know how. So what I would say is, I hate this. You know, I don't want to do this. And so they transitioned into movies after that because it was on a commercial. So they just thought he didn't like commercials or whatever. And so, but he talked specifically about, I just didn't have the words to say, I'm feeling used or I'm feeling, you know, exploited. You know, it's just such a hard, weird thing.
And then he goes and does movies, and like his second movie is a huge hit, and it's you know, it's a big jumping point for him. And then his mom puts him in this really shitty horror movie, and which ends up being like a horrible abusive situation.
Yeah.
There's Billie Eilish is someone that I find interesting because her mother is always there. And I think about that, like, as a parent, if my child were to gain popularity somehow, you know, and her like a path opened up, and you know, would I take her down the path of entertainment and exposure? I think the answer is no. I'm actually taking steps right now to make my Instagram private. So now I have like a fan Instagram where you can follow like a Danae Says Instagram. And then the one that I've had for a long time, I'm just going to like literally just go in and delete followers, because it's like, no, she doesn't have a choice. I tell her stories, but she doesn't have a choice right now on what, you know, is happening. And to a certain degree, she has more exposure than the normal kid, maybe. But yeah, there's a lot to think about. And I think about Billie Eilish's mom, and I just wonder if she's doing her damnedest to make sure her kid doesn't end up alone in a room with some person that will take advantage of her youth.
I think now, because people are more aware of that, I think, because like Evan Rachel Wood tells the story. I don't even give everything away in the documentary, but there's so much going on. But Evan Rachel Wood tells this story about going to the Golden Globes and having to sit there and watching someone she knew damn well was a pedophile receiving an award, and she couldn't say anything. She couldn't do. I don't necessarily think he did anything to her, maybe, but she doesn't say.
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think it's accidental. The very next scene is about Kevin Spacey and Bryan Singer.
True.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's. I think it's the movie's subtle way of saying, even if it's not these people, look, you know, these are the stories that we're hearing now, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
but I can tell you, like, if my daughter was doing this, she probably would get that, because my wife wouldn't put up with much, so they probably would get that hard to work with stigma.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, but see, here's the thing: performing children, even outside of entertainment, I do think of, you know, your daughter's gymnastics. You've told stories about the cheerleading and gymnastics, and you know, I don't like this, I do like this, and I think you're doing such a great job of listening and trying to interpret what she's saying based on the words she has to use.
So Iris is right now 3, and I'm doing this right now. She has 2 different childcare places she goes to that are in homes, and they're kind of like, you know, smaller, more like home-minded childcare. And one she's excited to go to, and the other one she's like, I don't want to go. So this week I kept her home because I want her to know I listen to her. But I'm trying to help. Without giving her the words, I'm trying to ask her why she doesn't like to go there, because I'm curious. Is she being hurt? You know, what's happening? Is it that she doesn't like the toys there? Is it there's like more children there? And she'll reference a couple things. There was a kid that went there for a short amount of time who was younger, and he bit her a couple times. And so I was like, okay, super good reason to not want to go. He doesn't go there anymore. So, but she's 3. I have to kind of like meet her on that level and kind of go, okay, is there something happening here? And what are the words that you, a little person, would be able to tell me that there's something serious happening? And it's hard. It's really hard. Unless I'm there, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to strap cameras on her body and send her to this place and just watch her all day. You know, it's hard to know what to do.
Yeah. Anyhow,
I agree.
It's a fabulous documentary. I recommend it to everyone. I think it'll open your eyes and your heart, and I think create some empathy for a situation that a lot of us don't have any kind of experience with. So good stuff. It's called Showbiz Kids. Again, it's on HBO. That's going to do it for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed. Go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter. At CinemaSins BTS is the main Twitter. Personally, if you want to message us, we're at Aaron Dicer, at Danae Says,
DENEESAYS,
and at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
When a conversation switches from business back over to fun or whatever, we should go into non-work chat.
Totally disagree. Let's have all the random fun.
Random fun is great, but whenever I'm thinking that there's something work-related going on and my phone's just going bing bong bing bong bang bing bong bing bong bang bing bong bing bong bing bong bing bong bing bong.
This coming from the person who can't just type one thing. She has to like hit us with 5 at a time.
That's a good point. You make a valid point.
Your preference, Danae, would be If another conversation is going to happen, it hops to a different channel.
It's an impossible preference. It's one that I just kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I mute channels and then I have to just go back later on and just trust that if there's something important, I'll be added. You know, somebody will like link me.
Yeah, like tags. You know, it was funny. My favorite part about that whole thing this week was Jeremy was like, I should have put this in the non-work chat. And then you were like, hey, I copied it over there. And then the conversation continued in the same one.
Hold on a second. Again, why do you interrupt me whenever I'm recording? Donuts. I'm sorry, guys.
I like the gun show that you're giving us there.
Jonathan says your arms are sexy.
That's not what I said.
He just said he's your biggest fan.
That's because Jonathan is bisexual.
He's bisexual. That got him to leave. Great.
But the thing with Apple, though, you really do have to get the Apple specific stuff. Like, I mean, they're geniuses. Because if you get the off-brand chargers, they don't charge as fast. And like, if you've got a car with a USB, you can't do the Apple CarPlay with them if it's not an Apple charger. I mean, they're geniuses. Like they've.
Yes, you forgot one word. They're evil geniuses. You have to throw the evil in there, you know. My son recently, one of my sons, who shall remain nameless to protect their identity, just after we bought him his new phone, walked into a pool with it in his pocket. So,
Is this the same one who went to the lake and had it fall out of their pocket?
Nope, different one. This is a different one.
And the other thing, if you ever drop your phone, I mean, the first thing you can't do is like, don't try to turn it on. I mean, don't push any buttons, like anything. You just
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Apparently Rice is an old wives' tale. Actually doesn't work. It like does nothing but possibly get grains of rice in your phone, which I was like, okay. Apparently you're much better off just leaving it alone, not pushing any buttons, letting it dry out. If you have some of those like silica packets that come in packaging, you can put it in a box with some of those and that might draw out some of the moisture. But apparently Rice does not draw out moisture like I've thought before. So
yeah.
I was walking through the room. One of my sons is on a Criminal Minds kick. He just decided to start watching Criminal Minds on Hulu.
It happens, man. It happens.
And
okay.
And I would just, it leads to these wonderful times where I'm walking through the room and all I hear is, what, you thought I killed them? No, I just wanted to buy their body parts. And I'm just like, okay, all right, whatever's going on in this show, you know? I wanted to talk about how amazing our fans are. Like,
right?
Like an episode comes out and there are at least 3 or 4 of our fans who always have stuff to say about the episode, which always makes me happy. We've got people offering to install electronic covers for the Finding Nemo poster.
I'm all for it, Dexter. Yes.
It's just fun. It's just like, in just to be honest, like some of them I don't even understand. Like they'll tweet something about the episode and I'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Did you see the GIF that was shared, or I think it was an Instagram video of like who I actually am more like, which is I think Meg from Family Guy.
Yeah.
I guess there was a series of Meg going through like going from prepubescence through puberty.
Yeah.
And it starts with rejecting tampons and being mad about having her period to pimples, and then basically burning the house down. I'm like, yeah, that's super accurate to me. It's incredibly accurate.
I'm sorry, you mispronounced GIF. So, but we can continue. I just wanted to throw that out there.
And then Tom T-Train 85 says, catching up on the show, I'd like to preemptively nominate Danae says singing the gibberish version of Can You Feel the Love Tonight in the outtakes as best moment for next year's anniversary show. We do need to think about having people submit throughout the year,
or keep track of them or something. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to figure it out because it would be better. It'd be easier to do it as the year goes on than trying to remember at the end.
We all have to wear tuxedos on that episode.
Yeah.
Me too. Do I get to wear like a cool tuxedo?
Yeah.
Cool.
You can totally wear a tuxedo. You can be like
a little pantsuit.
Kate Blanchett, I think, rocked one time.
Here's the backwards tux.
Here's what I'm saying. Don't send it to us thinking we're keeping track. Like, Like, if you want to keep track of your favorite moments, please. And then at the end of the year, you can send them to us when it's time. But I'm not keeping track right now.
What if we made an email that was best of BTS?
Okay.
And people just sent their submissions there throughout the year.
And then just
check that email
only check that
once a year.
email once a year.
Yeah.
I like it. Best of BTS at CinemaSins.com.
Yeah.
Send timestamp an episode.
Send the timestamp in an episode, and then Jonathan, I'll just make it your email, so you have to be.
Did I tell you how I used my CinemaSins email at the Chevrolet dealer? And I don't even know why. I guess I just try to think of, because I have like 3 emails. I have a Yahoo and then I have 2 Gmail. But, like the CinemaSins one is just very simple. So I just used that one because I figured that would be easy. And then I didn't really think about it. And then the guy like repeated it back. And then he was like, wait, the CinemaSins? I was like, oh crap. Now this guy's got my email. No, he was very nice. He was a fan and just asking. He asked me a few questions and stuff. He was awesome. But
that's good. That's good. It is one of those things where when somebody says the CinemaSins, you never know which way that's gonna go.
That's true. No, I could tell like he seemed genuinely like excited. So I mean I could tell, but I just was like, maybe I shouldn't use that email in the future.
I want to send a shout out also to our fans who continue to click like on the YouTube videos. Because I don't think you realize how encouraging it is to go down the videos and see like a high percentage of likes. Because when you look through the comments, sometimes you do see some of the negative comments and you're like, oh, it's about a quarter negative and 75% positive kind of thing. But then you look at the likes and it's like 96% positive. And it's just like, thank you. Like, thank you for taking the time to say you like something, because people are much more apt to take the time to say they don't like something. And so that's very encouraging. So just a shout out to all the video likers. Like, that's really cool.
It's also been nice getting to actually do some of these interviews with people in the industry and realizing that, like, because you always feel like everybody in the industry just hates you because, those few people that have said stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think generally a lot of people probably don't even know who you are.
Right.
And then the ones that do, probably most of them don't really care either way. And then you get like some that like us and some that don't, it kind of evens out. So it's been kind of nice to be able to get that perspective.
I was watching the Showbiz Kids doc that we've been talking about recently, and just some of the hate that these kids, got through Will Wheaton talking about how, he was destroyed by fans, Star Trek fans, just like hated
I remember
him.
that because I watched that when it was on, and I remember all that stuff going on, and I was just like, and I wasn't, I thought he was fine, and I mean, good for him.
He's great,
to be on the show.
Sure.
I think it's mainly people that I think it's mostly jealousy. I think that's what a lot of that is. They're pissed off because
I just see things like that, and I just remember like haters is a real thing. Like it's kind of become like a cliche joke kind of thing, like haters gonna hate kind of thing. But it's legit. Like there are just some people who like to hate things, and that's
it's awful.
So yeah, but it's encouraging to remember that that's on them sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that there's an element of that obviously constructive criticism is always fine, and we always want to do better at what we do. But at the same time, that's not what a lot of this is.
Well, and then on that Showbiz Kids, on top of that, though, you find out that they're not even getting support from like their parent,
right?
Or their siblings.
That was some of the saddest stuff. Was Will Wheaton talking about his parents? Like that was hard. That was hard to hear.
One?
Will Wheaton talking about his mom.
Yeah, and I knew about Todd Bridges. Yeah, but that was still hard to hear.
Yeah,
and talked about like maybe his father was the reason he became the person he became, where he was getting in trouble, and because his father didn't give a shit that he was getting molested. Like it was just insane.
Yeah.
And then like no, that was really cool. I know that they're I know that they're all like I know that can't be easy, but I think a lot of people just throw it off to like, oh, they're crazy because they're spoiled and they don't know any different. And maybe some of them that's true, but like it goes so much deeper than that. Like the stuff Evan Rachel Wood was getting into.
They're kids at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like what are they supposed to know? What are they supposed to do?
Exactly. The stuff that Will Wheaton and Evan Rachel Wood, the stuff that they were getting into, like just psychologically, it was just,
it's powerful.
It was very powerful. Like, I don't want to be irresponsible and let my daughter do whatever she wants, but I also don't want it to be like her first year of college, she's ODing or, you know, just doing really dumb stuff or doing stuff to excess, I guess, is the way to put it.
I think a lot of this will come off a little extreme, but I think it's worth starting a conversation about. I think a lot of us who grew up in the evangelical Christian church of the 80s and 90s are realizing that we grew up in a Christian cult as much as we grew up in a Christian religion. And that's tough to wrestle with. Like, so many of the behaviors and the lessons and the things we deal with are very cult-like. And the hard part is they came from I think a loving place. Like, I know with my parents, they came from a very loving place. And I actually was very fortunate to grow up with parents who wanted me to think for myself and encouraged debate and, you know, those kind of things. But they still raised me in a cult-like environment, and so I think wrestling with that is very difficult for our generation, but I think important.
There's a podcast that I was recommended called The Life After. Mm-hmm. It's a society and culture podcast with Chuck Parson and Brady Harden. They interview courageous people about their faith deconstruction, unraveling religious indoctrination, spiritual abuse experiences, religious trauma, the rebuilding of personal community after leaving Christian fundamentalism, and more.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of the conversations are around people realizing that there was a cult-like thing going on, or like one of the people that a name you might recognize that's been on the show was Jennifer Knapp.
Oh yeah. What happened to her was tragic. Like, it was just it was awful.
She was a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, in case you didn't know.
Very talented.
So, and she was very talented, and she was basically like excommunicated. Well, like, you know, Nicole Nordman, which is one of my favorites. And this is a time right now when lots of people who have been in that vibe, just trying to kind of endure
and figure it out. Yeah.
And figure it out, are just cutting ties completely in a way. I can think of another couple of artists specifically who are speaking out about like their opinions and their thoughts and are just being completely slaughtered by the culture. So yeah, it's an interesting podcast. It's interesting to hear people talk about their experiences.
And being excommunicated is a cult action. Like, that's the thing.
When I was in high school, though, Amy Grant released the Baby Baby album.
Right. Yeah. Heart in Motion.
It was so weird because you would have, and I mean, not only students, not only kids, but like the teachers were saying stuff about it. Like, you would have thought she had like sold her soul to the devil or something. It was insanity. And I remember I was like 14 and like, you guys are crazy. Like,
well,
she's singing a pop song.
I was. It's hard to remember my own thoughts on the matter. I do know stories have been told on my legend at the university I went to, because when I attended like one of the high school students go to the college to check it out kind of weekends, they called them like red carpet days or whatever. I ended up on stage in front of, 3,000 or 4,000 of these potential students, and doing this contest thing, and I won. And they said, here's your prize. It's Amy Grant, Heart in Motion. And my response was, I'd prefer a Christian CD instead, or something like that. And the place went nuts. And like, then I was a freshman the next year at college, and like I had upperclassmen coming to me and being like, dude, I totally remember when you did that thing on stage. That was awesome, kind of thing. So like, I was absolutely in that mindset when I was that age, kind of thing. Now, I listened to that album. I loved it. It wasn't something I put into practice necessarily, but it was part.
You were regurgitating what you were around.
Yes. And also I thought it was funny, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it'd be something really funny to say.
That is super funny. And I will go back. I shouldn't say people are crazy. That's mean. But but you didn't think that like she had be like you didn't,
no.
You didn't think she was evil all of a sudden because she was singing pop music, secular pop music.
No, I did not.
And I can understand like people, I guess, like, she was kind of a representation of like a successful Christian artist, and then she chose to not do that anymore. Just kind of like country fans got mad at Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Because, that they kind of felt like she justified their fandom, which is not fair to the artist
again,
at all.
It's cult-like behavior. It is
very
like
much so.
Yeah.
Hey, country fans are very cool. I listen to like hard rock and metal. I mean, there's a lot of fans of that are very cultish.
In distinguishing between tribalism and cultism is an interesting nuance. But yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying.
But the greatest nation is Raider Nation, just so everybody knows.
I wanted you guys to know that last week's episode was the first time that I felt a severe fan disappointment, in my opinion, about Community.
Oh.
But
people supported you too.
There was some genuine sadness.
Yeah.
Like, I listened to the show and I'm so bummed. Like, I listened to the show and, oh my God, Danae, no, you like, it does get better. Like, and I've heard that before, but this one felt different. It really, truly felt like, though my dislike for the pilot was understood and echoed, there were so many people. And so I wrote probably 5 or 6 different messages to people and then kind of like did like a little repeat thing where it's like, I listened to what Aaron and Jonathan said. There were several people who were listening, and as they were listening, their messages to me, you just said this, and oh no. Like, don't worry. The guys tell me that it gets better, and I'm going to give it another shot. Oh, thank God.
Like, I love Star Trek, but like, I just watch the shows, I watch the movies. I don't really think much about it beyond that. And I have to remember that sometimes and not that I would really change anything I say, but like, I do have to remember there are people out there that, take it a little more personally.
I think it's healthy to distance your value from the things that you love. Like that's tough. Mm-hmm. Like, how much I love Pixar, but I don't care if people don't like Pixar movies. I just disagree with them, like it's
I've never felt like afraid to tell you I didn't like a Pixar.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But there are people I know that like I don't want. I'm like I'm going to leave that alone. And
yeah.
If you don't like Kipo, you're dead to me. I just want to say that.
I haven't watched it yet. Now I'm scared to watch it. Thank you.
Holy crap. I also got so many people that wrote me and they're like, oh, Kipo is amazing. And so that's a thrilling feeling. And I think that's one of the things you guys like to do too, is whenever you love something so much and somebody like watches it and enjoys it as well. Like, it's a really cool feeling.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was like addictive.
I've had a few people on Twitter, because I've talked about Columbo a lot. I've had a few people on Twitter DM me and tell me they started watching Columbo because of me. And I'm like, oh, yay. Like, I got you to watch a show from the 70s. That's amazing.
And yet here I sit and nobody has told me they love Holy Moly. I mean, come on, guys. Where's the Holy Moly fan base?
I also liked from last week that you got some pretty strong responses on Twitter that you absolutely need to patent your
my cereal?
Your cereal dispenser.
Legit. One of our fans messaged me and said he has lawyers and he would love to, go in on this invention, kind of thing. So he asked me about it, and like within the first, 10 minutes of searching, found that somebody patented it in 1989. Like it's been patented for 40 years or whatever.
Where is this person?
30
years.
years.
Patent's good for like 50 years.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. Like, nobody has like marketed it. Like, I can't find it like to buy anywhere. So I think because he was actually going to make one for the patent. He said, I'll go ahead and make you one, anyways. So I don't know if there's a way around it to just like make them and market them, as something different or whatever. But I think it's a great idea. I know it would help me out in my breakfast choices.
I just I love the idea that and I even drew like a little mock-up picture. There's this lower chamber that catches all of the dust. And my cousin loves cereal dust. In fact, when she was in the Peace Corps, her mother and father, every time they finished a cereal box, they would take the dust and set it aside, and they would mail her like care packages while she was in Africa.
It's amazing.
And her care packages would include just the remaining dust of cereal because she loves it so much.
I feel like that's like the crackling of cereal, right? Because like if you go to like Long John Silver's or Captain D's or you get the little fried crackers,
the remnants,
and that's the best part.
That's
well,
so good.
think of it this way. Think of the secondary market for using that dust in cooking. Like, I want to flavor something like Lucky Charms, so I'm going to use some Lucky Charms dust.
Lucky Charm pancakes.
Exactly. I'm just saying. I'm saying this is a good idea, and even if it's patented, it hasn't really been done and marketed. So we need to do it.
You have to. You have to.
We'll see. I'll talk to my guy. I'll talk to my guy.
Okay, yeah, talk to your guy. But then remember who actually drew the picture and
That's right. I think the picture alone gets you 5% of the company. I think that's
plenty.
just how it is.
That's plenty.